Hello, my friends. We are talking about desire satisfaction theory today. This is chapter 3 in your Russ Schaefer Landau text, if you're using that, for our Introduction to Ethics course. And we're going to start with chapter 3, and as we saw with the first value theory we looked at, which was hedonism, the first chapter, the one we're going to cover today, discusses the attractions of the theory. And then the second chapter that we'll cover, the next one in the next video, will be on some of the problems with the theory. And so that will give us a good coverage of desire satisfaction theory. So in your text, I'm working from starting on page 44. This is the third edition, and I know there's a fourth edition available now. Pagination is pretty close, so we won't be too far off. And what we're talking about in chapter 3 then is the attractions of desire satisfaction theory, and your author calls this getting what you want. So let's take a look at some definitions. And you can start listing some things that that you want. You know, what kinds, if you started making a list of 5 to 10 things, what would be on that list? I mean, some of them would probably be very, very concrete and tangible things. Some of them may be a bit more less tangible, more abstract. But you can make a list up, and what's important in desire satisfaction theory is not finding some sort of common connection between those things. You can take these things individually. And the test for desire satisfaction theory is very straightforward, and it comes in the definition of this theory of human welfare, which says that your life will go well for you to the extent that you get what you want. So something is good for you if it satisfies your desires, only if it satisfies your desires, and because it satisfies your desires. So that's the positive side. The negative side, something is going to be, your life will go badly if your desires are frustrated. So nothing on this view can make your life better unless it gets you what you want. Pretty simple. And the thing that benefits you, then it does it because it satisfies your desires. So it's a very, very straightforward theory of human welfare and the good life. And so let's take a look then at the specific attractions of this. And the first one is, this really gives a good account for why there's a variety of good lives. And we don't have to seek for an objective theory of value because this is dependent on our own desires. And maybe the most important thing, like if we were to make that list of 5 to 10, you probably could do that and circle 1 or 2 that are your deepest desires. Think of the Mirror of Erised in Harry Potter, Philosopher's Stone. You know, what it shows you is this picture of your inner life achieving your deepest desire, of you getting that, and what that would be like. So what counts then is, it doesn't matter specifically what it is, whether it's virtue, whether it's thrill-seeking, whether it's knowledge, whether it's inner tranquility. All of those things could make your life better off. It's a question entirely of whether your desire for those things have been fulfilled. So your deepest desire might be, I don't know, inner peace. Well, is it good for you? Well, it is good for you if that's your deepest desire and you have it satisfied. Okay? And the variety then comes in because it's entirely up to the individual. So your set of desires is going to be different than mine and different from another person's. So what's good for you will differ from what is good for me. Okay, and then a second attraction is related here to the fact that there is a variety of good lives under this theory, and that is that the individual person has authority as to what is an appropriate desire for them. So it is, again, our own desires that make our lives go well. and the frustration of those desires that would make our lives go badly. So we have the final say then in what makes our lives go well. And I mentioned this, I think, in when I was on the last slide, but there is a condition to this, and that is that the good life has to consist of satisfied desires, and I've put that term in the adjective there in highlighted text so that you can understand what that condition is. It's not just a matter of having the desires and knowing what they are. Those are two important things. But in order for the life to go well, it has to be satisfied desires. Okay, so the point of the personal authority in account or feature of desire satisfaction theory is that it doesn't require us to seek for a universal standard for the good life. It doesn't require us to have a universal standard for appropriate desires. It's to each his own. Okay, and this gets us to this issue that I mentioned just a couple minutes ago about avoiding objective values. And your author puts this as an advantage for desire satisfaction theory. And on the one hand, it seems that there's a lot of assumptions in a lot of value theories that there is one single thing that makes a life go well, that is beneficial to you, that contributes to your welfare. And so what that means, if there is an objective value for human welfare, what that would mean is that is independent of you. And what your job then would be is to seek out what that thing is, which you may not know what it is, but you search for it and you find it and you obtain it. That's under an objective theory of welfare. So desire satisfaction is not an objective theory of welfare because it is not fixed. The good life is not fixed independently of your desires. Okay, so what your opinions and desires are is what is important. So the question then that the desire satisfaction theorist would raise to someone who's promoting an objective theory of welfare. Let's just take an example of one of those things, like virtue. So you might say the virtuous life is the only way for life to go fully well, to become maybe fully human or something like that. And so what then it becomes important to do is find out, well, what are the virtues that I need to develop in order to become this good person and to live a good life. All right? And the desire satisfaction theorist gets to just sort of shunt that to the side and say, if it isn't tied to my desires, then I don't have to seek out this additional knowledge and pursue things that are not that I don't know are good for me. Okay, so the question coming back around to this, and I think I'm mangling this one pretty badly, but the question is, how can something be good for me if I don't want it? And if I don't want what it gets me? So if your desire, for example, is to become a world-class musician, okay, daily practice is going to be what you need to do, right? And how do you know that you need it? Because you already know what your deepest desire is to become a world-class musician. So why would you undertake musical practice if that was not your desire? Now, there may be other desires other than just that require musical practice, but you get the idea is that we have now a connection between answering, well, what should I do, and connecting that to the ultimate goal. And the ultimate goal is satisfy desires, because then our life goes well. And so now I can figure out, oh, okay, well, what do I do in order to get that satisfied desire? So something like becoming a great musician is going to require practice, right? Okay. Next, and this is kind of related to the next point, attraction of desire satisfaction theory, and that's the question of motivation. And it's kind of assumed, I guess, by most people that if something is going to be good for us, we would be motivated to pursue it. And so what desire satisfaction theory comes in and says is like, okay, hold up though. So you can't assume, again, this objective theory of value. Okay, we'll look at motivation and desire satisfaction theory, how they connect in a second. But let's look at what the first argument is and why the desire satisfaction theorist is going to say, oh, no, there's no objective value that you can put into that thing that's good for you, and in other words, good for everybody, that is going to connect to the issue of motivation. So in your text, the author talks about the first motivation argument. So here's the general form of it. If X, and X is some activity, some goal, is truly good for you, then you will be motivated to get X, so long as you know about X and how to get it. Okay, so that's straightforward desire satisfaction theory. Many people who know about wealth, for example, and know how to get it, aren't motivated to become wealthy. Okay, so you can have this sort of objective knowledge about what wealth is and how to get it, but that doesn't necessarily make you motivated to become wealthy. Maybe you just want to. Maybe what really satisfies your desires is to be a teacher, and so you become. It's not about gathering the wealth, using this knowledge to gather wealth, but it is about using this knowledge to teach others to get wealthy. Okay, so wealth in that case is not going to improve the life of such a person. Okay, the opportunity to teach would, but wealth itself is not going to improve that person. So put anything else you want in there, like health. Okay, right now I'm doing a keto diet, and so I have health reasons for doing that. Maybe fame is your thing, and you want to become a YouTube star like me. Maybe some religious practice or observance is what you would put in there. Okay, virtue, we mentioned that one earlier on. Whatever you put in, there's always going to be some people who have the knowledge of it and know how to get it that will not be motivated to do it. Okay, and so this argument then, which the desire satisfaction theorist is perfectly happy with, is going to challenge all objective theories of value. Okay, so if we've again taken off the table objective theories of value, let's look at what desire satisfaction theory has to say about motivation. Okay, so if something is truly good for you, then it will satisfy your desires. Straightforward desire satisfaction theory. That comes right from the definition. Okay, so that's the first premise. Second premise, if something will satisfy your desires, then you will be motivated, at least to some extent, to get it, so long as you know what you want and how to get it. Okay, so this seems clearly true once you understand that its desires do motivate you to do things. That's taken for granted here. That seems beyond plausible. It seems kind of obviously true that desires do motivate you. Now, there may be other things that motivate you, but at least desires would motivate you to do things. Think back to the musician example, for example. Okay, so 1 and 2, 1 is straightforward desire satisfaction theory. 2 seems obviously true premise. So it follows from 1 and 2. It's a valid argument. Therefore, something is truly good for you, then you will be motivated, at least to some extent, to get it, so long as you know what you want and how to get it. Okay, so that is the connection then between desire satisfaction theory and motivation. Okay, next is the justification for pursuing self-interest. So in this case, we can start with this question. What is the point of trying to improve your life? Now that seems like kind of a dumb question to ask, because it seems like the question would be obvious, or the answer would be obvious. Maybe because trying to improve my life is going to be more satisfactory than not improving my life. But desire satisfaction theorists think that the truth of what am I trying to say here? Let me reset that. If we're talking then about improving your life, you're talking about what is best for yourself. And it seems like there's always some reason to do what is best for yourself. Okay. And someone can challenge that claim. Maybe sometimes it's there aren't good reasons to do what's best for yourself, maybe for somebody else. Or maybe you just lack the reason to do it. But a desire theorist is going to say, oh, I can give you the reason. You'll always have the reason. And it comes in the form of this argument. If something makes us better off, then it satisfies our desires. Straightforward, again, desire satisfaction theory. So from the desire satisfaction theorist, just write off their definition. Premise 2 says, if something satisfies our desires, then we have reason to obtain it. Okay, so there is the connection, and again, it seems pretty straightforward. It seems at least plausible. So our wanting something gives us reason to get it. So I mentioned I was doing keto diet right now. Part of it is a weight thing, but mainly it has to do with other health issues. So I have reason to monitor what I eat, and I have reason to exercise and all those things. Not because health is some sort of objective value, but it's because I have the desire to improve my health. And that's connected to other things. If you want to pass the next quiz and get a perfect score on it, then you have reason to study. Okay? So you see how it works then. Whatever is in your self-interest to improve your life, desire satisfaction theory says, of course there's a reason, because whatever it is that is going to improve your life is something that satisfies your desires. Okay. Straightforward. Now, a classic philosophical question. How do I know what is good for me? Well, desire satisfaction theory has a really simple answer for this. And this, again, you don't even ask this unless, in the background, it's sort of implicit that there is objective values. And they will have a difficult time answering this question. One will be because there will be different views of what that objective value is, or values, could be multiple. And it could be that even if I did have a strong case for an objective value, I could enter this other difficulty, and that would be if I have conflicting desires. And that seems a pretty common experience of people. So you have multiple desires, and they can often be at odds with each other. Like my desire for rest and my desire to ace the quiz, the next quiz. Those desires could come into conflict. Okay, and the desire satisfaction theory's answer, though, is what you have to do is be clear about what you want and figure out how to get it. So what you would do in the case of conflicting desires is you would come up with a prioritized list. And then you would figure out maybe what sacrifices you have to make to get the thing that's really your deepest desire. And and maybe the things that aren't as lasting, won't give you as much lasting satisfaction, put those further down the list. There's multiple ways you could approach it, but the point being is what you need is clarity about what you want, and then figuring out how to get it. That's all you've got to do. You don't have to have some overall theory of, say, virtue or inner contemplation or things like that. Okay, so that is Getting What You Want, Desire Satisfaction Theory, Chapter 3. And on the next time, well, I'll see you, we'll talk about Chapter 4 in this book right here, and yours may be a different color now. I think, I want to say it's either a red border or a black border. I can't remember. But we're talking about Fundamentals of Ethics, Russ Schaefer Landau, and next time is going to be Chapter 4, Problems for the Desire Satisfaction Theory. So until then, I'll see you later.